Have you ever wanted to be right in the middle of some of the world's greatest sporting moments? To feel the roar of the crowd and the buzz of the anticipation? To experience every game-changing moment and hear it firsthand from the competitors who made them happen? Well, today, you're going to hear from one of the lucky people who gets to do just that. Sports broadcaster Matt Floyd. He's going to take us through his journey into presenting, his biggest challenges, and a few tips on how to make a career in sports journalism. So stick around to the end to find out all those tips if you want to end up as a sports presenter. So I've got a very special guest for today. It's Matt Floyd, Sky Sports presenter. It's not just Sky Sports now, is it? You do also
I'm freelance now. I'll go anywhere. BBC and various other places, overseas, dodgy places, all sorts of places.
Amazing. Okay. So what we thought we'd do is take you through Matt's kind of early life, how you got into sports presenting, what happened, and I think you were saying you've got quite an interesting story about actually how you got in, and that might not work today for some people. And then really kind of what your tips are for other aspiring sports presenters. Because as we talked about, if you don't make it as a professional sportsman, this is like the next best thing. Getting paid to basically watch sport and meet your heroes.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty good option. Yeah, I think I would have loved to have been a professional sports player, but I just was never good enough. I probably thought I was good enough in a couple of sports when I was younger. Yeah. And then I quickly realised I wasn't. I was more interested in having fun and going out anyway. So, this is a way I could do this and still have my social life. Whereas if you're a professional athlete, you've got to be got to live like a monk. So this is a more fun way of being involved in sport. Okay, so that leads us very well. So tell me a little bit about early life for Matt. So we're talking about a teenage belief in yourself. You thought you were going to be a professional sportsman, and then what happened? Probably got interested in girls and booze.
Right.
Probably, yeah. No, I cricket was my thing actually.
Okay.
Cricket. I played a lot of cricket when I was from the age of. I played all sports, but cricket was the one I sort of was best at. And from 9 until 17, 18, I was kind of in the system and in an academy. And my dad used to drive me around the country everywhere. Wow. Really far north, that far west, and he was keen for me to be a cricketer. And at one point I might have been good enough, but then when I went to university, got a bit distracted, and I kind of, that was where I realised that I wasn't quite at the level to make it. But I was still, I liked playing it, and I still carried on playing club cricket till I was 40. So I still loved the game and everything, but I wasn't of the level to be a professional, so that's when I just, ended up working in sport.
And then also what happened? So your favourite sport growing up was cricket.
Yeah,
that was probably your dad's
and football.
Your dad's favourite sport.
yeah, that was mine too.
Okay.
Cricket and football very close for me, basically the same. I love rugby as well. NFL. I love a lot of different sports, but I'd say cricket and football equal.
So before we get into that, then, is it important for a sports presenter to have a real love of multi-sports, or do you get people who are just focused on one sport?
You can just be focused on one sport, but then you have to work in that sport.
Right.
So if I can be a really strong horse racing aficionado, really strong in that, and I can make a career out of that. But the problem is that sports rights change different places, so you've got less options. Suddenly there might not be showing much horse racing on TV where you live in the UK or wherever. So if you're an all-rounder, you've got a lot more options.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A bit like being an all-rounder in cricket, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then did you get to do stuff like you're saying NFL? Do you get to do, do you do the kind of UK version of NFL commentary if they're looking for that kind of thing over here? Or
I don't do NFL myself, but I've done lots of different sports. I've presented football, cricket, rugby, boxing, table tennis,
right?
Like all sorts of different stuff really. Commentary is a different skill. So commentary kind of need to know what you're doing. So I've only commentated really on cricket and a little bit of football, but mainly cricket. But presenting wise,
and presenting is the bit where you see the people at the beginning. So you'd be the guy introducing what's happening. You might be down on the pitch side doing a couple of interviews, that kind of stuff on the sidelines.
Presenting, you're basically the person who talks to the camera, and you're the link between the viewers and the experts.
Yeah.
You're with the experts. So your job is to make it all seem like a kind of conversation between the viewers and you and the pundit, and make it seem as personable and as smooth as possible, while also getting the best out of your pundits, asking the right questions. That's when the journalistic skills come in.
Yeah.
While you're dealing with a load of shit in your ear and kicking off, and then trying to remain 100% calm so people don't know that that's all going on.
I didn't know that was going on.
And it goes on a lot of the time. And then hitting the running order. In TV, you have a strict running order.
Right.
The things you've got to hit and timings. Radio's a bit freer because there's no visual mediums. But like TV, you've got graphics, you've got packages, you've got interviews.
And I guess that's the difference between the presenting and the commentating, because the commentating is just free flow. Yeah, you're watching the game, it's in that half, you know, what's going to happen. Yeah. Whereas you're like, right, you're teeing everybody up. They're just turning on the TV, they're getting ready for it, and you're that person who's going to bring them right into it. Yeah.
Commentary, you're reacting to the live action.
Yeah.
You've got to be very descriptive with your words. If you're on radio as well, you know, people can't see it, so that radio commentary is very different from TV commentary, and also presenting as well. So you've got to know how to paint a picture. You've got to do that as well as a presenter, but you're more like telling a story. So we're building up to this game. You've planned ahead a lot of the time. This is our running order. This is what we're going with. You hit right. What are the key moments of this? Man City playing Man U. This is the most important point. This is the most important point. We're going to hear from this person. We're going to lead on to this. It's all a big story building you up to the game. You throw to and then the commentator takes over and takes you.
Man, it's making me feel nervous as you say it. I'm there with you. I'm like, oh my God, it's making me feel nervous. So, are there any highlights in that? And, you know, because it sounds extreme to keep like a level of calm on TV, get to the running order, all those things. Has there been any like mega highlights, people you've met, or moments where you've been like, that was the best one?
I've done like a lot of big cricket events. So I've done World Cups. I've done probably 5 World Cups, like 50 over World Cups and T20 World Cups. Never done a final, but I've done, you know, the games. Before that, I've worked with some pretty big cricket stars. I think probably that the most fun would be, I think it was, I can't remember, 2016, 2020 World Cup or something, 2018 maybe. A couple of World Cups in a row we did from Sky, from the studio here. Yeah. Even though they were in, I think one was in India, one was in Bangladesh. But we had a massive studio, and we even had a cricket net, a full-size cricket net. So they let us use this kind of passage next to the studio. Yeah. So what we do is we get these big stars in, Ricky Ponting, Kumar Sangakkara, Jack Callis. Amazing. And we would basically do live demos with them. So we'd be chatting in our cricket kit up at the desk, and then we go, right, let's go and have a little, Ricky's going to show us how to play the pull shot. We had a full-size net, so we'd go into the net, I'd walk there, and I would be feeding the balls to these guys, and they'd be like talking, talking us through. Yeah,
they're all mic'd up, you're chatting to them, so they're narrating as
they're taking. Sangakkara was going, right, I'm going to play this shot now, and he's literally doing exactly what he's saying, and I'm just sitting there just feeding the balls, like almost like this is really cool, forgetting what I've got to say, because I'm just enjoying this. So that was probably the most fun that we've had for, I think it was 2016, 2020 World Cup.
Yeah, that is a real highlight for anybody, if you're into cricket or whatever that, you know, the same, I guess the same for football or that kind of stuff. That is a real magic moment. The reason you got into it, I guess. Yeah. To have those moments. What about the biggest blooper you've had?
I think I've probably sworn by mistake a couple of times.
You haven't named the wrong person to their face.
I've done that.
Have you?
Yeah, well, the other day actually I was on air and I called my co-presenter, he's called Pete, and I called him Steve. Live on air.
Does he suit being a Steve though?
No, not at all. I don't know where it came from. It was like we'd been on air for 3 hours, and we right at the end, and we had this was for Sky Sports News, so this was a sports news channel, and Pete's a good mate of mine, and we had Russ Bray, who's the famous darts announcer. He goes 180. Yeah. He's got a really gravelly voice, so we had him in. And then he got us all to do like a 180 ourselves, and it was at the end of it, and I'm like, all right, Steve, your turn. And he's like, what, Steve? And we just started laughing, just like, I don't know. I think I've been looking at some WhatsApps, because we do, you know, we read out viewers,
you
know, questions or whatever. And I think one of them was called Steve. So I just was, all right, Steve. And I looked at it, you know, and I worked with the guy for ages, you know, for years. And we just laughed about it.
That's hilarious.
That's not uncommon, that kind of stuff.
I did actually the same thing with Charlie the other day, poor Charlie, one of the guys behind the camera here. So I was introducing him. We had this lovely guy we're interviewing called Dean Stott, who's an ex-Special Forces world record holder. He's an amazing guy.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, this is Johnny, this is Paddy, and this is...
You went blank.
I just went blank. And I just felt terrible.
Yeah.
You know, awful.
I do that the whole time.
So, okay, let's get into actual advice for sports presenting. So for those watching who dream of becoming a sports presenter, what advice would you give them off the cuff? And I'm sure you get asked this quite a lot by, you know...
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have to be knowledgeable and passionate about sport or the sport that you want to go into. You'd be surprised how many people, even now, present sports and don't really know much about it or don't even like it. And you can see, I can spot that quite obviously by the questions that someone asks.
Yeah, interesting.
And I think that makes a huge difference. If someone is passionate, knowledgeable about what they do is key.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very hard to...
So that's the primary thing, right? So
yeah,
tick that off.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think you need to be really into what you're doing, really passionate about it. You need to be able to convey that passion as well, because you can be passionate about something and not be able to convey it.
Okay.
So
there's got to be a certain amount of eloquence.
Certain energy, like you know, just be bubbly and look interested. Like I remember when I first started, that was the thing I found hard. I was a bit low, downbeat, wasn't smiley enough, wasn't like projecting enough. So that takes a while. You have to watch yourself back, and then slowly I improved at that.
I'm probably going to get that in the comments about me right now.
No, you're very good, mate. You're very good.
Tag that bit.
So I think that's key. So being able to, you're selling a product, right? So you've got to know how to sell it. And
the channel, and you know, you're selling
them the match that you're presenting at the time, and your coverage, your channel's coverage of that. So that this is for presenting. Commentary's similar as well. You know, absolutely. You've got to sell the events that are happening. You've got to really get upbeat and up and down.
And for commentary though, I guess you've got to really know it. You got to know it, because you've got to be like, well, it's unusual to see that person doing this, or well, that's interesting.
Commentary, you've got to be more prepped, more knowledgeable about the sport. You can blag it a bit more as a presenter, but still to be a proper presenter, you've got to know what questions to ask. So a lot of it is you've got to understand the editorial of the situation. Yeah. So if I'm, you know, sitting here with Roy Keane and it's Man United against Man City, which is coming up on the weekend. Yeah. Right, what's the first question you need to ask? What is the big story here? It's probably Pep Guardiola, Man City at the moment, and the terrible form they're on, right? Yeah. So it'd be something like, is this now officially a crisis?
And how far do you go with that question? Because there's probably questions that a lot of people want to hear you ask, right? Yeah. But they're probably a bit too close to the edge. So do you get like editorial advice from your team? Are they like, you can't go that far? Back off a bit.
If you've got a good producer. So for something like that, that's a dream almost, because there's loads of talking points. Yeah. Manchester City, Manchester United, loads of talking points. You can't fit them all in. So, and you've got loads of time to build up to this. Yeah. So it's rare that you'll get a breaking story 5 minutes before you go on air and you've got to rip everything up. You can plan a structured, you've got a 1 hour build up. You sit down with your producer, probably a week before, and you plan, right, we're going to do this shoot and this shoot and this shoot beforehand and have this and this. Then you sit down again 2 days before and you plan the running order out to a T. You know, you're like, okay.
And you rehearse it.
You don't rehearse it. No. You on the day you'll just rehearse. You won't rehearse your questioning and stuff. That you do that yourself. But if you have a good producer, you chat with him and say, okay, so how are we going to lead this conversation then? And hopefully he can give you some good advice, and you can work as a sort of team. Yeah. Often the presenter just does it all himself. Right. Sometimes the producer's very forthright and wants to put their opinion in.
Their stamp on it.
Yeah, and that's good if you've got a good producer.
Yeah, okay.
But it should be a collaborative effort. You and the producer go, right, we're going to guide, this is first 5 minutes here, we're going to be talking all about Manchester City's problems, Pep Guardiola, we've got this stat to use and this stat to use, and we're going to do that. And then we're going to move it on into Ruben Amorim, and it's it's his first Manchester derby, and we've got an interview with Amorim. And then off the back of that, we're going to talk about got this stat to show that Man United are pressing much more under Amorim than they were under Eric Ten Hag.
And this is what they're saying in your ear at the same time. So they're saying, right, we're going to
They'll
run
remind
this
you,
stat
but
now.
you've planned, you know this is all coming. So then the director and the producer, they will just, right, okay, producer should be like, he shouldn't be telling you what to say. You should know what to say. But what he should be doing is saying, right, okay, move this conversation on to this part of the conversation now.
Right.
Or, okay, we need to move on to, stop this now, we need to move on to Man United at Ruben Amorim, we're running out of time. He's kind of keeping on top of the time. And so
that's what you're hearing. You're getting like timing points.
Yeah, but sometimes he might say, look, you haven't, get Gary Neville in on this, because he's got an interesting opinion on this, or because you might not have asked the right person the right question or something like that, and he's trying to stay on top of that.
Okay, interesting.
Because
they've got a bird's eye view, so it's a very different perspective to you.
Yeah, a little bit, and you work as a team.
You've got to really trust them then, because sometimes you're going to hear something like, no, I don't like that. I'm just going to keep going my way.
But you do that. You've got to make those decisions yourself. You don't have to do everything the producer says. So sometimes they might not have heard you say something and say, ask this, and you've already asked it, right? So you've got to make your own decisions as well.
That's a lot.
But you've.
And so it's quite a lot of experience for that, to get to a point where, because you can't just run into this. You can't, the first day, you can't just sit down and be like, right, let's do Pep.
No, this takes a while. I think it takes a while for you not to really get nervous and not overwhelmed by all the stuff going on in your ear. And then when stuff goes wrong, that's when your experience really helps. You lose all your comms, or like a graphics not right or doesn't go in, or an interview isn't there, and you throw to it and it's not there, and then you got to carry on and fill time. Where am I going? Until that stuff's happened to you, you don't know how to deal with it. So when stuff goes wrong, it's actually good because you learn. So the next time it happens, you're like, oh, okay, I know now what to do. If I lose comms completely, I know roughly what the running order is anyway.
But it sounds like something you can't even really practice for, right? So your first day you get picked to be a presenter, right? It sounds like you can't. It's not something you can practice for.
No, you have to practice live on air.
Yeah, the first time you do it is the first practice, really. Okay, so are there any specific skills apart from any of that, that you can set yourself up with, right? Because I can imagine that the some of the younger generation watching this, I know that my kids, my eldest, he's dead keen on being a professional sportsman, but he's also looking at what other routes can he go. Well, actually, all of them are, right? And so they would love to be a sports presenter, but how do you even start positioning yourself, right? You've gone to university, you've done this stuff. What's next?
I think
your story's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, so I got into it just because someone I knew, just complete luck. So I played club cricket with a guy who turned out to be quite a senior producer in cricket at Sky Sports.
Right.
And so I was playing with him when he was probably 10 years older than me. I was 16, he was 26 or something, playing in the men's team at my club. And so I got some work experience through him there when I was at school. My mum basically said, oh, you got to hit him up, you get a week's work experience. So I did that. I did another couple of weeks when I was at uni. And then when I finished uni, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. And I was working for a mate's kind of startup actually.
Okay.
But he didn't really it was more like a kind of hobby for him really. He was paying me cash in hand. It wasn't secure. Yeah. So when I got a call from my friend who'd just now been made the head of cricket at Sky, he said, look, there's a job, basically a runner job. It's the lowest level in cricket, just in cricket, in the cricket department. So you're the guy who will make all the teas, coffees, photocopying, do the auto cue for the presenter, and learn. And then it's very low paid. After a couple of months, we'll try and bump you up to like a junior assistant producer or something once you've learned a bit. But I think you can be a presenter if I don't know what
he knew your personality. Yeah, he was saying, here's this carrot.
He played a bit of cricket with me since when I was a teenager, and he said, look, I think you can do it. No promises, but we can get you a screen test. We can give you some practice. We'll see if you can do it.
But I think the thing with that is, Ryan, is I know you're saying that you think your route's a bit unusual, right? But if you tease that apart a little bit, it's about networking, right?
Yeah.
You never know what your network's going to present. It's also like you took advantage of an opportunity. So here was some work experience, yeah? You weren't too proud, so you went and did the work experience. And then somebody offered you a gig saying, do you want to be a runner? Now, I think a lot of people probably would have turned that down.
Yeah.
But you went, no, I'm going to give that everything. I'm going to do it for a couple of months. So you were a runner. So I don't think it is that unusual. I think it's about maximising the luck that's put in front of you.
Yes. I think, maybe you're right. I think I was lucky because I knew someone, and it shouldn't be like that. Now I think, you can do like a sports journalism diploma or something,
Right.
and then get on a proper program where you go on as a runner, whereas I kind of got in a bit through a contact.
Okay, but that is a proper route.
But I
now.
would still recommend being a runner, being assistant producer first, before being a presenter.
Okay.
Because you learn how the whole broadcast works.
Okay, yeah.
You're in the gallery.
Yeah.
You're in the live environment. I used to do the auto cue for the presenter.
Yeah.
So I would scroll the auto cue for them. So I knew exactly how they worked. I was watching them, sort of taking in what they were doing, listening to what they were listening to. So I wasn't, when I first went and sat in the chair and practiced, I wasn't as nervous as I could be because I knew who was talking to me, how it all
That makes
worked,
a lot of sense.
Where the graphics came from, what the vision mixer was doing. I knew all that.
But it also meant that, I guess, even having done those small jobs, you can be more empathetic. So when the runner's there rolling the auto cue for you, you can be, hey, do you know what? You want to just slow it down a little bit here. Yeah. Just because you've done it.
And you know where it's coming from.
So you can be a better team.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Yeah.
And then you can say to the director, you know how it all works. So you know that you can request the director. You can say, look, I've only got about 10 seconds of stuff to say over this graphic. So, just don't stay on it for too long, because if I stop, just move on to the next thing. And he's like, you've just got to communicate with people and know who does what in the environment. And so that's why it helps be, and also it helps with your editorial thinking, because after I was a runner, I was then an assistant producer.
Yeah.
So actually I was producing some stuff.
Yeah.
I was the producer's right-hand man, and I would have some responsibility. I did actually produce some smaller shows while I was learning to be a presenter. So I would think like a producer.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot.
Well, and it also puts you in their mind, so again, about the team, right? Because you understand how they're thinking. It doesn't become a kind of conflict. You're not like, why are you saying this? Right?
Yeah.
Because you've been in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, let's wrap this up because I've taken up so much of your time. So is there any final points you would give? So let's say, I'm speaking to my kids, what would you say to them? Would you say go and do a diploma, or is it, what do you think is now the most common route to going and being a sports presenter?
I think now something like that does help because it's very competitive, and I think now they kind of expect you to show evidence that you're interested in working in sports journalism.
Right, yeah.
So I think, getting some sort of a qualification, doing some sort of a course definitely helps, because then you can take that to a big company like Sky or BBC and look, this is the evidence of me wanting to work in the industry effectively. If you haven't done a degree, because some people now do a full-on degree.
Wow.
Right? A lot of people come in with a full-on sports media degree. You can do a 3-year degree. Wow. So that's the best way.
Right,
you do that, and then while you're doing that, you get some experience doing local radio or local TV, and you just, sometimes it will be unpaid.
Apply to be the runner, look at
Yeah,
work experience,
100%.
in your summer holidays. Just it's constantly showing evidence that this is what I want to do.
Mix it up and get some experience, get some TV experience.
Yeah.
Go and have a little look at how TV works as a runner. Go and have a look at how print journalism works if you can. Write some stuff if you can. Write for your student journal. Write for local newspapers. Get as much experience as you can to get a bit of radio experience, and figure out which part of the sports journalism industry you want to work in. Because you might not want to be a presenter. Yeah. You might want to be a producer. You might want to be a director.
Yeah, it's kind of like the presenter is like a fighter pilot, right? When you think about like the RAF or pilot, right? And everybody goes, I want to be Maverick in Top Gun. But inside of that, there's a massive machine, and that's what you're saying. It's like explore all of it. Because although the fighter pilot looks like it's the thing you really want to do, actually you might end up going, being a written journalist is actually I'm really passionate about it.
And it might suit your personality better.
Yeah.
The fighter pilot thing is fun, it's great and it's nice to be, and I was attracted to that because I wanted to be the front person and the main man, and I enjoyed it. But there's also a lot of things which can be stressful about it and that you have to really work on. A lot of things weren't suited to my personality and I had to get better at them.
Okay.
I'm quite a shy person. I'm not really gregarious, really talkative like some presenters are. So I just make it work around my personality.
Okay.
I don't talk for ages when I'm on. I just I kind of ask the right questions and I keep my words to a minimum. Whereas some people would be, asking a question and it takes them 5 minutes, or talking to the camera for ages.
It's like a Michael McIntyre joke. A long way around, and eventually you get to the questions.
It's up however you want to do it. But I really like the idea of being the presenter and being in front of the camera, and it kind of worked for me initially. But initially, I wasn't. It worked for me eventually, but initially I thought, am I really cut out for this? Maybe I'm better off behind the camera because it's quite a lot of stress and pressure. But now I love the live buzz. Nothing gets me going like being live. If it's a pre-record, I often make mistakes because I just don't have that energy.
It's not there. Yeah. But it's amazing, right? Wrap up, because you've been all over the world doing this. Yeah, looking at the sports you love, meeting professional sports people, being involved in TV. I mean, it is the fighter pilot of that world. It's amazing.
It's fun. I mean, you can travel the world as well doing the other jobs, but there's nothing better than you're at a big event and you're confident, you've done your prep, that you're ready to go, and it's pumping stadium, and it's there's all sorts of glitz and glamour going on, and you're at the forefront of it, and you're delivering a message, a service to people watching, and then you go live, and you've got some good guests with you, and the banter's good, and you're excited. Like there's nothing quite like that feeling, you're in the middle of the storm, but then if it all goes wrong, if you're at some tin pot tournament somewhere and something goes wrong and you get thrown under the bus by the director or something like that, and then you're thinking, fuck, this is like, what am I doing here, kind of thing. But those are not that common. It's more you do it for the buzz of being live and providing a service. You're trying to provide a service for the people watching.
Yeah, and I think my final thought on that is that whenever I talk to my kids or their friends and that stuff, and I'm bringing it back to that because they're at that point now where they're looking at trajectory, is that for them just getting a free ticket into Wimbledon or something is the big buzz. The fact that you get to present as well. I mean, they'd happily be runners just to get to get into Wimbledon. So look, I'm going to let you get back to work. I really appreciate it, mate. Thank you so much. Really, that was amazing. Pleasure. Awesome. Thanks, dude. That was really, really cool.
Cool. No, that was easy.
I want to become a fighter.